Good morning, Patriots. This is Pruitt with Thoughts from the Trail, and I'm speaking to you on this sacred day we call Memorial Day. Before I begin, I want you to understand something. This isn't just another 3-day weekend. This isn't about barbecues and beach trips. This is about blood and sacrifice. This is about men who stood between tyranny and freedom and chose to die rather than let liberty perish from this earth. A little history of Memorial Day. It was born from the ashes of our nation's greatest trial, the Civil War. Originally it was called Decoration Day, and it began in 1868 when Union veterans would decorate the graves of their fallen brothers with flowers and flags. But the true spirit of this day reaches back much further, to the very moment our forefathers first took up arms against an empire that sought to enslave free men. You see, Memorial Day isn't about celebrating war, it's about honoring those who answered the call when evil knocked on freedom's door. It's about remembering that the liberty we enjoy today was purchased with the most precious currency of all, the blood of patriots who love their country more than their own lives. I'm going to share some stories of real heroes, men whose names should be spoken with reverence in every American home. I'll start with Private First Class Ross McGinnis, who was just 19 years old when he threw himself on a grenade in Iraq in 2006. When that enemy grenade landed in his Humvee with 4 other soldiers, McGinnis had seconds to react. He could have jumped out and saved himself. Instead, he threw his body over the grenade and absorbed the blast that would have killed his brothers in arms. This young man from Knox, Pennsylvania, chose to die so others could live. He received the Medal of Honor posthumously. But more importantly, 4 American families got their sons back home because one young American patriot understood that some things are worth dying for. Then there's Staff Sergeant Robert Miller, who was a Green Beret who died in Afghanistan in 2008. During a reconnaissance mission in the Kamar province, Miller's team was ambushed by Taliban fighters. Instead of seeking cover, Miller exposed himself to enemy fire to call in air support and coordinate the evacuation of wounded Afghan soldiers and his own men. For nearly an hour, this warrior from Wheaton, Illinois, stood his ground against overwhelming odds, drawing enemy fire away from his team. He died doing what warriors do, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. 24 coalition forces survived because Miller chose duty over safety. But heroes aren't just found in distant battlefields. They're found in the waters off Normandy, in the jungles of Vietnam, and in the fields of Gettysburg. Technical Sergeant John Chapman, who was an Air Force combat controller who died in Afghanistan in 2002 during Operation Anaconda. When his team's helicopter crashed during an assault on Taliban stronghold, Chapman found himself alone on a snow-covered mountaintop, surrounded by enemy fighters. Security footage later revealed that Chapman, though wounded, continued fighting for over an hour, killing multiple enemy combatants and clearing bunkers to protect incoming rescue helicopters. This man from Springfield, Massachusetts, fought alone against impossible odds because he knew other Americans were counting on him. He became the first Air Force member since Vietnam to receive the Medal of Honor. Think about a young Audie Murphy, the most decorated American soldier of World War II. This farm boy from Texas was just 19 when he single-handedly held off an entire company of German soldiers while standing on a burning tank destroyer. For an hour, Murphy fought off over 200 enemy troops using a machine gun mounted on a vehicle that could explode at any moment. When asked later why he did it, Murphy simply said he was doing his job. That's the heart of American heroism right there. Ordinary men doing extraordinary things because duty calls. Medal of Honor recipient Kyle White was just 20 years old when his platoon was ambushed in Afghan's Kumar province in 2007. For hours, White moved through enemy fire to reach wounded soldiers, calling in air support, coordinating medical evacuations. When a mortar round knocked him unconscious, he woke up and continued fighting. This young man from Seattle refused to leave his wounded brothers. Even when it meant almost certain death, 6 Americans came home alive because White refused to quit when quitting could have been easier. These aren't just war stories. These are testimonies to the character that built this nation. These men understood something that seems to be fading from our culture, that some principles are worth more than life itself. They understood that freedom isn't free, that liberty demands sacrifice, and that tyranny only wins when good men refuse to fight. Like Captain Humbert Versace, who was a Green Beret and was captured in Vietnam in 1963. For 2 years, he endured torture, starvation, and psychological warfare in a Viet Cong prison camp. His captors tried to break him, to make him denounce America and spread communist propaganda. Instead, Versace continued to resist, boost the morale of fellow prisoners, and attempt to escape. He was executed in 1965, but his fellow prisoners later testified that his courage and faith kept them alive. Versace chose to die as a free American rather than live as a tool of tyranny. From the frozen ground of Valley Forge to the beaches of Iwo Jima, from the rice paddies of Vietnam to the mountains of Afghanistan, American warriors have written the same message in their blood: freedom is worth dying for. Marine Lance Corporal William Kyle Carpenter threw himself on a grenade to sell his fellow Marines in Afghanistan in 2010. The blast destroyed most of his jaw, collapsed his lung, and left him legally blind in one eye. But his brother Marine lived. When asked about his actions, Carpenter said he was just doing what any Marine would do. That's the spirit that has kept this Republican free for nearly 2.5 centuries. These fallen heroes didn't die for politicians or policies. They died for an idea. The radical idea that all men are created equal, that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed, and that liberty is the birthright of every human soul. They died defending the Constitution that protects our rights to speak freely, worship as we choose, and live as free men. Today we remember these heroes. We must ask ourselves a hard question. Are we worthy of their sacrifice? Are we living lives that honor their memory? Are we raising children who understand the price of freedom? Too many Americans have forgotten that liberty requires vigilance. Too many have forgotten that freedom demands responsibility. Too many have forgotten that rights come with duties, and that those duties sometimes require the ultimate sacrifice. Our fallen heroes didn't die so we could live comfortable lives of silent compliance. They died so we could stand up to tyranny, speak truth to power, and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. They died so we could be free. Not free from responsibility, but free to take responsibility for our families, our communities, and our nation. As we gather around our tables today, as we spend time with our families, let's remember that we do so in the shadow of crosses and headstones. Let's remember that our freedom was purchased with blood, defended with courage, and preserved by patriots who loved their country more than their own lives. The true memorial to our fallen heroes isn't built of stone or bronze. It's built of character, of courage, of the determination to pass on to our children and grandchildren the same liberty these heroes died to protect. So today, patriots, as you enjoy freedom to speak your mind, worship God, and live as free Americans, remember the price that was paid. Remember the heroes who sleep beneath the flag they died defending. And remember that their sacrifice calls each of us to be worthy of liberty they purchased with their lives. Freedom isn't free. It never has been. It never will be. But as long as there are Americans willing to remember, willing to honor, and willing to defend the principles our heroes died for, liberty will endure. So until next time, stay vigilant, stay free, and never forget the heroes who made it possible. God bless our fallen heroes, and God bless America.